Now the Spirit of the Lord is the one that speaks through me. Before my mother's womb, he ordained and knew me, ransomed me, and placed his words upon my tongue. Few are chosen, rest assured that I am one, an ambassador for Christ, his beloved son. And by his word, let souls be one. So welcome everyone to this listening party. Sit back and let your souls be hearty. Celebrate with me the gift that God has imparted. And what better way to get this party started than to give him the stage, because he knows where your heart is. Holy Spirit, you are welcome in this place. Give me the boldness to look upon each face and speak every word that you've given me to say. With no fear, I speak truth. I won't deviate, and I'm confident that all will go great. So let your presence saturate this place. I breathe in your spirit, I intake a river full of life, water in every dry place. As I flow to the notes that heaven navigates, let it bless every listener and free them today. Let the truth of your word draw souls to be saved. Let the comforter comfort hearts today, and let the light of your word show them the way. Every time I write, I tell his story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. He opens up to me and shows me his glory. He gives me the strength to keep on soaring, and when I open up my mouth for him I'm roaring, and the Spirit of the Lord goes before me. To the captive set free, that's reassuring. Over the years he strengthened my inner core, and every day I wake up just seeking him more. Am I ready for this? In my spirit I'm sure I am in Christ, and my Father I adore. He redeemed me from destruction, I am his ambassador. As the world turns and open up the door, I step in with purpose to win souls for the Lord. Every time I write, I tell a story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. Every time I write, I tell a story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. Every time I write, I tell a story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. Every time I write, I tell a story as I bask in the truth of his word before me. Every time I write, I tell the story as I bask in the truth of his word before me.
Hey, welcome to Tom the Bomb Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports show in the world. It's Monday, December 2nd, 2024, and this is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. If you don't think it's a great day, just try missing one. And we, LOVE, love sports on the Tom the Bomb Show. I'm your host, Tommy Wood, and we got another fantastic show for you today. Hey gang, listen, all the music that you're hearing on the show, it has been approved by the owners. We do have copyright materials. Just want to get that out there for Facebook and YouTube. We have permission. So here on the Tom the Bomb Show, we bring together my two passions, the Word of God and sports. We bring together the excitement of sports and strengthening our faith through the Word of God. So in every episode, we fill it with insightful sports commentary from a Christian perspective, reminding you that how we win and lose in life truly matters. Our mission is to spread the word of God, and that's what we're called to do. So every show, we want to reflect our commitment to sharing biblical truth, offering hope. We always want to be offering hope and encouragement through scripture. If it's relevant to the people, it's relevant on the Tom the Bomb Show. We address significant social problems and provide guidance that is based on Christian principles in order to assist individuals in navigating the challenges that life presents every day. Okay, we're not trying to give you our thoughts. We want to give you the word. As usual, we want to start off by thanking God for all the wonderful things He's already done for us in 2024. Of course, as you know, our theme for the year has been the year of fixed purpose. And that's based out of Proverbs 4:25. It says, set your gaze on the path before you with a fixed purpose, looking straight ahead, ignoring life's distraction. Keeping our eyes on the path and looking straight ahead is what's going to allow us to ignore life's daily distraction. The Bible tells us that the enemy comes for the word immediately. It's not Tom the Bomb. It's not you. It's the word that the enemy comes for immediately because he doesn't want that word to take root in your life so that you can become a true disciple of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. So, hey, that's where we're at. Hey, gang, our show is live. Okay. The call in number here is 301 655 9992. Again, that's 301 655 9992. Or you can join us live on Facebook and you can catch us on YouTube as well at Tom the Bomb Sports Talk and on Spotify in your car or your smartphone or your iPod under the same name. You can also contact us by email at info@tomthebombsports.com. Or you can go to our website at www.tomthebombsports.com to contact us or to pick up your Tom the Bomb gear, which is coming to you soon. Hey, gang, today's trivia, we got trivia for you today. Today's trivia question is, who's won the most state championships in football in the state of Illinois? Who's won the most state championships in football in the state of Illinois? That's our trivia question for today. One more time. Who's won the most state championships in football in the state of Illinois? That's our trivia question for today. Hey, we got to get our poll question. Well, first of all, let's start off with last week's poll question, and the results are in. And our poll question for last week was, who had the better career, Dak Prescott or Cam Newton? And the results are in, and 60% of you all say that Cam Newton has had a better career than Dak Prescott so far. And Tom the Bomb absolutely agrees with you. You guys and girls are really smart and astute football fans out there. People, like I mentioned to you last week, Cam's kind of went off the tracks with, all of some of the kind of off the walls things we see him doing now. But Cam Newton, number one, he's been to the Super Bowl. His team was 15-1. He was the MVP of the NFL. Dak has never done that. Cam had some really good years, and a couple of years where he was like the best player in the NFL. So when you think about it, at this point, Cam has had a better career than Dak Prescott. So you guys nailed it out there. You guys are you're so smart. You're so smart. You're so astute. I love that from the Tom the Bomb fan. So that's our poll question. Hey gang, all gas and no brakes. It's time for the East St. Louis Flyers. Let's get to our highlights. The Flyers beat Geneva. Geneva, a nurse. You know she's a nurse, right? The Flyers beat Geneva for its 11th Illinois football state championship. The Flyers showed off their balance. They showed off their balanced offense, and at the same time, they showed why their track team is also so good as they raced to the Class 6A title on Saturday. After building a 20-0 lead on a man-sized run by Lavarius Woods with 9 minutes and 1 second left in the second quarter, with 30 seconds left in the second quarter, Geneva, a nurse, she scored on a 1-yard TD run. The Anthony Cecchino cut the deficit to 34-28 with 28-yard TD pass to Finnegan Wepner with 7 minutes left to go in the third quarter. And then Geneva, a nurse, kicked the proverbial dog. All gas and no brakes, and the Flyers kicked it into high gear. East St. Louis quarterback Kendrick Lyons connected with Ronnie Gomiller on an 81-yard TD pass on the ensuing possession to stretch the lead to 41-28. With 5:57 to go after holding the Vikings on its next possession, Lavarius Woods found the end zone for the third time of the day with a 31-yard TD scamper. The 20-point deficit was just too big for Geneva to spot the East St. Louis Flyers. The Flyers shut down Geneva for the remainder of the game. Christopher Bennett Jr. thrilled the crowd with an 84-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and the Flyers outgained Geneva, she's a nurse, 548 yards to 346 in total offense, with 323 yards coming on the ground for the Flyers. That's too many yards on the ground to give up to win a football game. Lavarius Woods finished with 10 carries for 117 yards and 3 TDs. QB Lyons finished 14 for 21 for 225 yards passing and 2 TDs. Ronnie Goldmiller had 5 catches for 128 yards and a TD. Chris Bennett Jr. had 5 rushes for 76 yards and 6 catches for 68 yards. And Martin finished with 14 carries for 76 yards and 1 TD. All right, I'm moving a little fast here. The 13-1 ranked, the Flyers ended the season being ranked 13-1, and they end up ranking number 25th in the nation, outscoring their opponents in the playoff run 269-42. The East St. Louis only loss this year came against national power IMG Academy of Florida in a 1-point loss, 13-14, going for a 2-point conversion at the end of the game, basically to try to stay perfect. It's Coach Darren Sunken's 5th state title as the Flyers head coach. Congrats, Coach Sunkett. Congrats to the Flyers and the city of East St. Louis, the city of champions. Congratulations, the Flyers have done it again. What a fantastic, fantastic season. The Flyers start the season with a big win, and they close out the season with a big win. Congratulations to our Eastside Flyers. We are so proud of you guys. So, so, so proud. All righty, let's move on to our next topic. Hey, Diamond. Yeah, I'm talking to you, bro. Diamond. What's up with your Ohio State Buckeyes, man? What's up with the Buckeyes, man? The Buckeyes can't beat Michigan. What's up, Diamond? The Buckeyes can't beat Michigan. Michigan shocks number 2 Ohio State 13-10 for the 4th win in a row. Everyone in Ohio, including Diamond, is sick. What went wrong again? They were a 21-yard field goal with 45 seconds, putting everyone in Ohio to sleep. This loss is likely to cost the Buckeyes a spot in the Big Ten championship game. It opens up the door for number 4 Penn State to advance to Indianapolis to meet number 1 Oregon with a win against Maryland on Saturday. If the Nittany Lions of Penn State should fall, then Indiana would get the nod with a win over Purdue. Ohio State is now looking for an at-large bid in the 12-team college football playoff. The Buckeyes still have a 99% chance to make the college football playoff, so don't panic. They should be in it. The Buckeyes were a 21-point favorite to win over the 7-5 Wolverines, who have been struggling following their national title win last season. But a stout defensive play and several Buckeyes miscues, including a pair of missed field goals. Man, these special teams are killing teams all over. And then 2 interceptions thrown by Will Howard. Michigan owns Ohio State. In the past 3 victories against OU, the teams were pretty evenly matched. Last year's Michigan National Championship team was a senior-laden team on its way to the national championship. This year, Michigan was rebuilding, and Ohio State was boasting one of the most talented rosters in college football. Saturday was supposed to be, as the godfather of soul, James Brown, would say, it's the big payback. But these games are bringing out the best in Michigan and the very worst in Ohio State. If you coach Michigan, your job is to beat Ohio State. And if you coach Ohio State, your job is to beat Michigan. Coach Ryan Day has some serious questions to ask. This was probably the biggest upset in the history of this rivalry because of the 3-touchdown edge that Ohio State was supposed to have over Michigan. It's why you don't play these games on paper. No matter what Michigan record ends up being, it's been a successful season for the Wolverines because they got the W that mattered the most. Now, unless Ohio State comes back and wins the national championship this season, this season is a failure, no matter what the record ends up being. Ryan Day better get a title this year, or they'll be looking for a new coach in Columbia. Come on, man, you got to beat Michigan, man. What's going on? You got to beat Michigan. All righty. Listen, let's move on to our next story. Our next story is basically, let's talk a little bit about the 2024, the Heisman race this year for 2024. I think realistically, it's down to a 2-man race in Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty of Boise State. Let's start with Jeanty. Let's start with Jeanty. All right, Felix, hold on. We're going to get to you in a second. Okay, this will be our poll question for today on the Tom the Bomb Show. Just in case you guys didn't know, the Tom the Bomb Sports Talk has been going on for 20 years in my man cave with me and Troy going back and forth against each other, talking or arguing sports. Our latest debate is who's going to win this year's Heisman Trophy. And as usual, we have a little action going on the side. And I don't mind telling you that Troy is wrong again, okay? So let's start off with who Troy thinks is going to be the 2024 Heisman Trophy winner, Mr. Ashton Jeanty. Okay, let's find out who Ashton Jeanty is. Ashton Jeanty, I'm going to be with you in a minute there, Felix. Ashton Jeanty is a running back for Boise State. He had another impressive outing in the Broncos' win over Oregon State. Jeanty closed out the regular season with a massive performance in Boise State's 34-18 win over Oregon State. The Broncos junior running back carried the ball 37 times. See, this is how many times Derrick Henry needs to be getting the ball. Jeanty got the ball 37 times for 226 yards rushing and a touchdown in the victory. He now has rushed for 2,288 yards through 12 games, moving into 5th place among college football all-time single-season rushing leaders. Jeanty trails record holder Barry Sanders, who rushed for 2,628 yards in 1988. Jeanty only needs 340 yards with 2 games to go. Jeanty has been averaging 191 yards rushing per game. If he can just keep up his pace, he'll break Barry Sanders' all-time single-season record. I kind of compare Ashton Jeanty to Marshall Faulk. That's a good comp for me when he was at San Diego State. By the way, Troy says that Ashton Jeanty is better than Marshall Faulk. Now, can you guys see why I get so mad with him and I have a hard time taking him serious sometimes? Those LeBron lovers, man, those LeBron lovers, I tell you, man. Okay, so, all right, so Tom the Bomb says it's Travis Hunter. I'm going to get to you at the end of this, Felix. Tom the Bomb says it's Travis Hunter. If you've been paying any attention at all, the Colorado standout, Travis Hunter, continues to dominate the Heisman leaderboard, okay? In my thinking, I don't think anyone can really challenge him at this point. I think he's what like Shohei Ohtani is in Major League Baseball. We've never seen his kind of domination on both sides of the ball. Like Ohtani, who's one of the best hitters and sluggers in all of Major League Baseball, and at the same time, he's one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. Now, Travis Hunter is one of the best defensive backs in all of college football, and he may be the best wide receiver in all of college football. Hunter did all he could to lock up college football's top individual award with another incredible performance this week. The Colorado two-way star finished with 10 receptions for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns on offense, while adding another interception on defense, his 4th of the season. They don't throw to the side much for the season. He has 92 catches for 1,152 yards and 14 TDs, and that's the most by a Colorado wide receiver for TDs in a single season. He's played over 650 snaps in the season so far. His only kryptonite is his coach, Deion Sanders, and the polarizing hate that people have for Coach Prime. We're hoping that it don't carry over and prejudice the voters against Travis Hunters. Okay, gang, what do you guys think? Who's right, Troy or Tom the Bomb? Let us know on YouTube and Facebook or by emailing us direct at info@tomthebombsports.com, or our poll question for today, Ashton Jeanty or Travis Hunter. We can, hold on, I'm going to finish this. You can do that online. Felix, you there?
Okay, so the fact that he said someone's better than Marshall Faulk, I mean, that made me forget what I was going to ask for a moment.
now you see why I be getting mad at him, man, when he be saying stuff like Ashton Jeanty was better than Marshall Faulk. I'm like, oh, come on, man, please don't do that. Don't do that.
Say this. if he's able to play both the running back and wide receiver, I'd say if he's able to operate on both running back and receiving in an elite manner in the way Marshall Faulk was, I can see it. But I'm just saying it's a bold statement. I'm not necessarily saying it's wrong, but that's something that gives pause.
I'm saying it's wrong, Felix. I'm saying it's wrong. Man, he should have his lunch money taken for that.
I'm just saying, like, let's just say, even if he is like the guy goes to the NFL, he turns out to be right. That's usually not something I'd say. Well, I got a guy still in college. That's
Yeah. Not to mention, we're talking about Hall of Fame Marshall Faulk. Now, even if he's saying, and I don't think this is what he was saying, but even if he's saying, I think Ashton Genty's college career was better than Marshall Faulk's, I don't even agree with that. But if Ashton Genty breaks the all-time rushing record in college of Barry Sanders, okay, then we have to give it to him on that. But you know, this guy, I like this kid. I've seen him play. He's impressive. He is no Marshall Faulk. Period.
right.
Hey, listen, let's take a break and then we'll come back and I can chat you up a little bit, Felix. Let's go ahead and take a break, pay some bills, and then we'll be right back right after these short messages.
Half the cost of national brands, you get equal if not better quality, saving you thousands of dollars. Right now, get 2 free windows with every 2 you buy. There's no limit. Plus, put no money down, make no payments, and pay no interest for 24 months. Get a free in-home estimate and we'll give you a free gas card. Go to windownation.com for additional details or call 866-95-NATION.
Sheltered by the Sea of Cortez, Danzante Bay is a pure and peaceful oasis, an uncrowded retreat where your options are as vast as your views. If you're seeking a vacation that defines luxury and the true relaxation, look no further than Villa del Palmar at the islands of Loreto. A splendor of true Mexican hospitality effortlessly blends with rich materials and insatiable comforts to bring guests the ideal home away from home experience. With its quiet beaches, scenic vistas, rich history, and an astounding surrounding natural habitat, you'll feel as though you've been swept off to paradise. Not to be outdone, Reese Jones has crafted TPC Danzante Bay, a brilliant, multi-themed 18-hole golf course that runs over and through valleys, arroyos, dunes, and foothills. From every angle, striking images of the islands of Loreto and the surrounding mountain range take your breath away, while the challenging yet rewarding Baja Golf Course beckons you to return for more. It is an honor and my pleasure to welcome you to the world's most beautiful sunset and so much more.
And we're back. Hey, I got my main man Felix Bassi on with me, and Felix has something he wanted to add with the Michigan and Ohio State game. We brought up a kind of a good point off there. Go ahead, Felix.
Okay, so first off, I just want to say, like, a lot of people are talking about the Ohio-Michigan State fight, what happened after the game. Now, I do know these sort of things happen in sports. Sometimes people's emotions get the better of them, but I just want to point out something really positive that I saw. Even though that there were people fighting on both teams, there were players from Michigan and players from Ohio, or a player from Michigan and 2 from Ohio, that were praying during that entire melee that was going on. So I think that was really a positive thing that I think people can take note from. So regardless of what's going on between you and people around you, maybe it's people who are in your friend group community who they have an issue with, or maybe whatever's going on, sometimes, and I know this is nuanced, but sometimes you can't always let that impact your connection to other people and your ability to be positive. And So I'd like to say that's something I found to be very uplifting, that there were people who didn't necessarily go with the grain in
Mhm.
that particular situation.
Mhm. That's awesome, Felix. Thanks for bringing it up because, like you mentioned, a lot of people, all they were talking about with the Michigan and Ohio State game was the fight, which occurred afterwards, and we purposely kind of chose to kind of stay away from that because that's just not what we want to highlight on the Tom the Bomb Show. So thank you for throwing that up in there, Felix. I appreciate that. Hey, listen, we hope everyone had a safe and great Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Well, maybe not if you're a Chicago Bears fan, right? Listen, man, everybody in America was yelling, call timeout.
Call time out.
We don't have highlights on this one. Yeah, call timeout. This is the closest
there's a certain level of emotion or criticism you can't air out to your team or yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't go out there and say, I did well. No. I mean, I remember we had bad coaching jobs in Washington left and right. No matter what I said about Gruden or who have you, I have never heard them, for the most part, say something so egregious on the mic.
Right.
So that was
Right.
just
He had to be fired for that. You know, he had to be,
right.
because see, like I said, I thought that they would have fired him immediately, but they didn't. They didn't. But after the game and the next day, he just started making these ridiculous statements, and it's like, as the face of your organization, you just can't let the face of your organization stay just damning things like that about the Bears organization. At that point, they had to let him go. They didn't have a choice. They had to let him go. 22, the guards are through. Okay. Hey, Felix, the Cowboys beat the Giants 27-20. And that's all I'm pretty much going to say about that. I told you guys 7 weeks ago that Dallas would win this game. What bothers me is that there are Cowgirl fans out there who believe after winning 2 in a row over the Commanders and the Giants, that they've got a shot at the playoffs. Playoffs? Sweet Jesus, bless their clueless hearts. In my Forrest Gump voice, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. I think if I think real hard, I might be able to remember the last time the Cowboys won a playoff game. My mama says it'd take you anywhere except to the Super Bowl. Please, really, come on, man. Man. I say, look, it's not so much that people hate the Cowboys. They have a problem with the Cowboy fans, man. Felix, they won 2 in a row. How are the Cowboys going to make the playoffs?
Well, I would say this. It would have to be an unlikely series of events, including the Cowboys winning all of their remaining games, which in and of itself is a series of unlikely events. So,
dude, you got to be one of the nicest people I ever met, boy. You are so politically correct. That's real smooth, man. I like the way you did that, man. I like the way you financed that. Or shall we say finesse? That's a private joke. I like the way you financed that. Hey, Felix, the Packers beat the Dolphins 30-17. The Dolphins can't win in the cold, period. That's the bottom line. No matter what they say, their team is soft. They're what you call a fair weather golfer. Now, Tom the Bomb, I'm a fair weather golfer, okay? I don't want to be on the golf course in the rain, in the mud, or if it's really cold. That's just not fun to me. The Miami Dolphins feel the same way. I'm going to talk about this later in the show, but these bad weather stadiums, they got to go. What's your thoughts on that, Felix?
Oh, that's an interesting topic for debate, bad weather stadiums. So you think the NFL should go for all domed stadiums, or at least teams in cold climates? You're saying that's
I'm going to get to that later in the show. What I'm asking you is your thoughts on the Dolphins against the Packers, because anytime below 40 degrees, they have not won a game when the temperature was below 40 degrees. What's your take on that?
Well, I would say that's something that's not really too much of a new dynamic, but I think it's more so extreme with the Dolphins. They even say that West Coast teams, they tend to struggle in road games in the Eastern time zone, because for West Coast teams, that's their early morning. That's like 10 a.m. in the morning. They're playing a 1 o'clock game. So
the part of that is travel, though.
Right. I get that. So it's like, I would say that a big problem with it is a general issue in the NFL. I noticed that they're very quick to hold indoor practices. Mm-hmm. And while I do like the idea in theory, they don't. A lot of teams are not given practice. Let's just say it's snowing outside in DC. Mm-hmm. Instead of the Commanders getting ready to practice in the snow, they're going to go to the indoor facility. And every team does this. Just about every team does this. Mm-hmm. So I think that when there's a paradigm shift where coaches say, hey, you know what? our teams are not ready for inclement weather games. We need to start practicing out in the cold rain, cold snow, cold what have you. And I do believe indoor practice facilities have their purpose. I'm not against them at all. But I'm saying if you don't get them ready to play out in the elements, you're going to expect more performances like that. So, again, I mean, I think that Miami's case is just more so extreme, but it's not uncommon.
Dude, they fair weather golfers, just like I am. Listen, I had issues. I had issues getting the trash out this morning because it was too cold for me. Okay, now we just gonna keep it 100. All right, let's get to our next game. I'm serious, man. What happens if you go back and look at the play? The offensive lineman taps the center on the butt when it's time for him to snap the ball. So he tapped him and he snapped the ball, and the quarterback wasn't ready to receive the ball. So the quarterback's taking blame for it, and the center's taking blame for it. It's just a bad break that Mother Weeks Kansas City Chiefs keep getting, man. It's like they got 4-leaf clovers stuffed into their jock straps or something, because this team gets more breaks than any team I've ever seen. So the refs got this one right. You know, that's my feeling on this. What was your take?
So I'll say this regarding that. So with the Chiefs, out of every team that has an 11-1 record, they have the lowest point differential NFL history. Every single team that's gone 11-1, they have the lowest point differential.
Yep.
It should be noted that the highest differential belongs to none other than 1991's Washington team, but it's neither here nor there. So the issue with Kansas City is that they're 11-1, but if you look at their games, they're not convincing victories. They're barely getting by. They're winning off of breaks. And the fact of the matter is, I think the Chiefs are aware of this, because I'm looking at the acquisitions they made during the season. Now, one thing I'm going to say is even after making those acquisitions, it seems to be more of the same in this story. So what I think the break might, or I think the break's going to end in the playoffs. Like honestly, I think that they may lose their very first playoff game, and even if they get away with that, I have a hard time seeing them winning the AFC Championship. I think if the Bills are going to get one over them, it's going to be this year, and that's kind of my take on the Chiefs now. I mean, take nothing from Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, what they've been able to do,
Mhm.
but this is not the same Chiefs teams they were in 2018,
Mhm.
or I dare say even last year.
Well, Felix, the statistics prove what you're saying is absolutely correct because every team, every single team in NFL history that have had that small of a point differential in wins, they have all lost in the first round of the playoffs. But you know what all of those teams didn't have that Kansas City
Patrick
has?
Mahomes.
Yeah, it's different than when Michael Jordan suiting up on your team, you know. It's different when you got the GOAT up on the side. So, you know, that's what all the statistics say, man. But man, until you beat that dude, he's the champ and you got to crown him, man. And I understand what you said. I agree with what you're saying. But, you know, I understand that fat meat is greasy. Okay. I understand that the sky is blue. I understand that the water is wet and that God is still on the throne. And Patrick Mahomes is still quarterback in the Kansas City Chiefs. So until that changes, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard. You know Buffalo got a Heimlich choke in them. Okay, let's move on to our next game. The
Right.
Texans and the Jaguars. Uh, this one we got to talk about. You know, we talked about not fighting. Let's say the Texans defeated the Jaguars 23-20 in a very hard fought game. I like to I like to commend Coach Doug Peterson for not mailing it in. At 2-10 and a very disappointing season, he's still got the Jaguars playing hard. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to stop him from appearing on Black Monday at the end of the season. With that being
Right.
said, uh, I went to a football game and a fight broke out. After a questionable late high hit on quarterback Trevor Lawrence, Texans linebacker Aziz Al-Shir was ejected for the blow to Trevor Lawrence's head. Naturally, the Jags were not happy about it, and they immediately took matters into their own hands. Evan Ingram said it was a dirty hit, and he was the first one there ready to throw hands. You have to stick up for your quarterback. Cornerback Jerry Jones also was ejected for the Jags for coming off the bench and throwing punches. Lawrence was ruled out for the rest of the game with a concussion. Lawrence responded on social media that he is fine and that he wanted to thank all of the well wishers and prayers sent his way. Defensive end Josh Hines of the Jaguars said a few years ago that would have been a good hit. He says, but now we talk about it with rule changes on how we're supposed to react to that play. And at the end of the day, we're just playing football and don't want to hurt anyone. Al Shear was fined $11,817 for the punch he threw after the hit. The Texans coach D'Amico Ryan said, that's not what we coach. We want our guys to be smarter and not hurt our team like that. What was your take on the play?
Honestly, I get things happen. Sometimes hits happen. They're unintentional, but the guy was going down. And I usually give people the benefit of the doubt, and I've seen hits to the head that were unintentional. Like there was a case with Emmanuel Forbes where he hit Smith and Neva from the Seahawks last year,
Mm-hmm.
and he got penalized for it. But I understood that was incidental. But in a case where a guy is clearly going down, I could tell he knew he was going down because I was looking at the trajectory of his hit. I'm looking like, okay, you're going down with him,
Mm-hmm.
and by the time he gets to the ground, you're not retreating. It's not like he's going to fake a slide, then go back up like the little Michael Vick move. It's like you follow him all the way to the ground. So unfortunately, I think that was maybe in his head at the moment. He thought it was a smart move, but honestly, I think whatever punishment the NFL gives him, I think you have to enforce these things. And sometimes, even if it's accidental, you have to throw the flag. Sometimes, if it's accidental, it creates enough bodily harm. Sometimes you have to give out the fines because you have to set a precedent, to make the game safer. I mean, yeah, I get it's a physical contact sport, but sometimes, yeah, you have to really enforce rules for them to be followed. So I know what I'm saying is really unpopular, but I think at the end of the day, I mean, how many of my favorite athletes have I seen go out with CTE? Like,
Mhm.
there's so like I think two Capitals players just this year, if I'm not mistaken, had that. So I mean, CTE's no joke. So I honestly think that they do need to take these things seriously.
Mhm. All right, let's move on to our next game. Our next game was the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots. And like I've been saying all year long, man, first of all, that last week I said it was going to be a knockout and drag out and fight game, and it was. I'm sorry, it was a fight. Again, the Colts prevailed 25-24, with the Colts going for a 2-point conversion at the end of the game for the win. I love the move. You've got nothing to lose at this point in your season. Rookie QB Anthony Richardson stepped up big time to deliver this win, showing signs that he might have that clutch gene that we talk about. He led a 19-play drive in the fourth quarter, showing what his A game looks like. Impressive, Skywalker. Because his teammates weren't exactly helping him out with some key drop passes. Coach Shane Steichen put his trust in the rookie Richardson to win this game. In sports, when the game is on the line, you always want to put the ball in your best player's hand. The Colts feel it's rookie Anthony Richardson, and he didn't let them down, doing his best Cam Newton imitation, plowing over defensive linemen to get that game-winning 2-point conversion. It was a good move on their part. What was your take on this one, Felix?
It was a hard fought game between the Patriots and the Colts. It, judging by the quality of the game, I mean, if I didn't know any better, I think it's the 2000s again. But in all seriousness, to your point, I see very good things out of this Colts team, and I think that if Anthony Richardson just irons out the bugs, he's still early in his career,
Mm-hmm.
and he's had a lot of his early career taken away from by injury. So honestly, the talent is there.
Mm-hmm.
The physical attributes
Absolutely.
are there.
Yep.
So honestly, this Colts team, I think if you keep Richardson healthy, you keep giving him a chance, and you work on him, you give him more assets around the roster, and you just bolster his surroundings. And I honestly think that this Colts team in 2 years' time, we're talking about them entering the playoffs around this point of the season. The Patriots, I like what they have going on with Drake May, but I think they're farther. I think it's a longer journey for them.
Absolutely.
I'll
Absolutely.
with that.
Absolutely. Let's move on to our next game. The Chargers defeated the Falcons 17-13 in a defensive battle. Kirk Cousins, your boy, Kirk Cousins, 4 interceptions, all but doomed the Falcons' chance. It's hard to win a game with that many interceptions, but to his credit, which I love to see, Cousins' teammates didn't throw him under the bus. They defended his nightmarish performance versus the Chargers. The smoke and mirror Falcons are now 6-6 after the 4 interceptions and 0 touchdown passes by Kirk Cousins. I love that his receivers and others came out verbally supporting Cousins. We've been talking about leadership is simply the ability to influence others. And you could clearly see the positive influence that Kirk Cousins has had on this Falcon team. Coach Raheem Morris added that he's not considering replacing Cousins with Michael Penix Jr. I have to mention this because it's just funny. One of his teammates said, and I quote, "If you take the 4 interceptions away, Kirk played lights out." I think that's hilarious. You know, if I lost 50 pounds, I wouldn't be overweight. If I had a couple of $1 million, I'd be rich. Really? Really? Come on, man.
Did one of his receivers happen to work for Washington, D.C. local media about 8 years ago?
Man, that's just too funny, man. The Falcons signed Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million contract with $100 million guaranteed. At 6-6, and in 6 losses, Cousins has thrown 6 interceptions with no touchdowns in the losses. I think Minnesota knew what they were doing when they moved on from Kirk Cousins. You know, what do you guys what do you guys think of that? I think they knew something was up with Kirk Cousins. What's your thoughts on that, real quick?
It appears that people don't really listen to Washington fans for some reason or another. I mean,
Well, you do know that Troy's a
there was a
Washington fan, and
reason,
that could be one of the reasons.
right? And oh, I just caught what you said. Oh, I just love what you said.
Ashton Jennings better than Marshall Falk. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm gonna listen to you, you LeBron lover. Hey, look.
Going back to the point with Kirk Cousins, it's honestly just what we've been saying. Like, he'd have a solid game. Like, for example, he set a franchise record with us. He gave us our biggest comeback in franchise history, coming back from 24 points down October 25th, 2015 against the Buccaneers. But at the same time, right after that game, what happens? People forget right after that game, we lost 2 games in a row. People forget that before that game, we had some very questionable performances. So the thing with Cousins, he has the ability to have these great games, but it's the consistency. And yes, the interceptions cost us games. People forget that season we made the playoffs 2015, we went 9-7. But if you take out just a few of his interceptions, our record would probably look like 12-4. Right? People really, again, interceptions are a very costly thing. And if you have a quarterback that throws them a lot, trust me, that will take away every single positive aspect about them.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move on. We got to move a little faster. Let's get on to our next game. Right. Our next game is the Seahawks beat the Jets. Like I said, they would, 26-21. The Jets should have won this game by 14 points or more. We just got through talking. We just got through talking about Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers is a guy that should be benched. If we go back to last season, the New York Jets had the worst quarterbacking in all of the NFL. Guess what? This year, their quarterbacking has been worse. Come on, the so-called experts were picking the Jets for the AFC Championship game, and some of those experts had the audacity to have the Jets representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. Not. I don't think so. Or did they think that, in the beginning of the year, Rodgers has been terrible, and I'll continue to say the more he plays, the more disservice he does to his legacy, because he's had a Hall of Fame career. And I think what's going on now is the difference between him not being a first ballot Hall of Famer, unlike Peyton Manning and Tom Brady will be. So I'd like to leave with this question. If Rodgers is not going to be your quarterback next year, why should you let him play the last 5 games of the seasons? And what do you all think? Let me ask you this. The last thing I'd like to throw in here is, I want to add in this. I played quarterback. And whenever I threw an interception, I was always in on the tackle of the guy who intercepted my pass.
Right.
The turning play of this game was Rodgers throwing a 92-yard pick six to a 300-pound nose guard. Who lets a nose guard run 92 yards for a touchdown? Where was Rodgers at? He didn't get taken, excuse me, he didn't get taken to the ground on this play. Where was anyone on the Jets team that you couldn't run down a 300-pound nose guard 92 yards?
The other question is, how does a nose guard get in position to make an interception?
Well, it was actually a great defensive scheme, because they disguised their schemes, and he thought he had too deep. So the nose guard was supposed to drop back into coverage. So he dropped back and he made a great play. But my point is, number one, right before the interception, he overthrew Wilson wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. He should have put him up by 21 points. And then he comes back on the next play and throws the 92-yard pick. I'm okay with the interception. How do you let a 300-pound nose guard run 92 yards and nobody on your team can catch him? That's ridiculous. We got to move on. Let's get to our next highlight. All right, now, Nat and Troy Wood and Felix, Commanders, rebounded with a 42-19 victory over the Titans. For one, they came out ready to play after a 3-game skid in the wrong directions. Keep in mind, this is a young team with a rookie quarterback. If they don't win another game this season, he's already been a huge success. Let me prove it to you. Number one, Daniel Snyder is no longer the owner, and the Jerry Jones anchor dragging the Commanders down. Number two, you found your generational quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Number three, one more thing is that you've returned to the roots of hog mentality, where all of their success derived from run the ball and stop the run. I didn't like the fact that at 28-0, they couldn't bury the lowly Titans. This game was much closer than the score indicated. Another thing that I like is you have to run the football, but if you don't stretch the field and throw the ball to your wide receivers, you can't sustain offensive continuity and dominance on offense. I like to see them getting scary Terry McLaurin back involved in the offense. What's your take, Felix?
That's one thing people did not take into account. That game could have been a lot closer than we saw, because 14 of our 42 points came from fumbles in Tennessee's own territory. Now, I have to give credit to Washington. They took it when they got the opportunity. They took advantage. That's something few teams actually do, and sometimes that's the difference between success as a team and the exact opposite. So I have to give credit where it is due. They took advantage of circumstances. But more to your point, another area of concern I had with Washington in that game, their coverage was very loose. A lot of what happened with Tennessee, it wasn't necessarily their defense was so great. It's that the Titans were either dropping the ball, Will Levis was over or undershooting. It was really the Titans' own error. And it really, from what I saw, the defense learned nothing from that Dallas game. Weak zone coverage schemes. And again, I believe zone coverage has its place, but there's a way to use it. There's a way not to use it, and there's a frequency for both. And honestly, I didn't see any of that balance. The blitz pressure was almost non-existent for much of that game. I mean, honestly, the only thing I can give credit to is the offense. Well-oiled machine. Even our backup running back almost ran for 100 yards. Their offense was immaculate. But all in all, I'm happy to see the win. I'm happy we had our highest scoring quarter in 30 years, 21 points in one quarter, 21-0 in the quarter, first time since at least 1991. So that was something, good performance. But to your point, that game was a lot closer than the scoreboard indicates.
Okay.
That's something a lot of people are not ready to talk about yet.
We got to move on, Felix. Got to get that field goal kicking squared away, too. Hey, man, Russell Wilson is returning to pre-Hall of Fame Russ Wilson. We all saw his glory days in Seattle as the Steelers defeated the Bengals 42-38 in a shootout. I've been concerned whether the Steelers could score that many points. Again, now granted, it was against the worst defense in the NFL, the Bengals. But what I saw that was encouraging was Russ' mobility and creating plays on the move. Wilson had 9 completions over 20 yards, which came from him moving around in the pocket. Nat Wood always says that you have to have a mobile QB today. Look, let me ask you guys a question. Who out there watching or listening has a typewriter at home? Raise your hand if you still have a typewriter, okay? Why don't you have a typewriter? Because technology has made typewriters obsolete. Well, non-mobile QBs are now obsolete. The Peyton Manning and the Tom Brady strictly pocket passers are a thing of the past, like typewriters. Remember when African Americans weren't smart enough to play QB position in the NFL? For 35 years, I've said we won't see black QBs in the NFL until we see black starting QBs at Alabama and LSU and Tennessee and Ole Miss and USC and UCLA and Ohio State and Michigan. Now that you have the feeder system, it's a natural progression for them into the NFL now. And that's because the way the game has changed, bigger, better, faster, your QB has to be one of the best athletes on the field in the NFL, i.e. Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, etc. That's the evolve of the quarterback position. Real quick, Felix, what's your thought on that?
So I would say I would say it just goes back to the complicated nature of how racism's expressed. So of course, at first, it starts off if someone's bigoted. Obviously, at first, you're not going to want anything to do with someone. But after a while, they notice, wait a second, other people are, I hate to say it like this, but if I can use these people as a commodity to get ahead, I'm noticing everyone else is doing it and I'm behind for not doing it. I might as well. That's on the more negative side, but on a more positive end, you can say, okay, I've seen examples of people doing this, so it's only logical for me to follow suit. And, maybe from a genuine place of logic, you can argue, yeah, I would say generally speaking, I think people are more aware,
Mm-hmm.
more insightful nowadays with with the matter of that.
Right.
But to be very frank, I mean, yeah, you do have some bigoted people like you who still would like a black quarterback if they're able to win their team some games. So again, this goes into the very. This could be an entire social studies class right now, but I think that's the long and short of it. Essentially, if a person can do something for you, you're just going to, at a certain point, going to drop whatever preconceived notion you want to believe.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on. The Vikings defeated the Cardinals 23-20 to claim the 10th victory of the season. Thanks to a late rally, the Vikings earned a comeback win over the Cardinals on Sunday, moving the Vikings to 10-2 on the season. And Tom the Bomb is still not a believer. Still just one game behind the Lions for the lead of the division. They got the Falcons next week, so I see them going to 11-2. So what's the problem, Tom the Bomb? The facts are that Sam Darnold is getting it done. His 12 for 17, 156 yards passing, and a TD. They aren't sexy fantasy numbers, but they're good enough for the W. As for the Cardinals, they must have never heard of the saying, never kick a sleeping dog, as wide receiver Zach Pascal was seen mocking the Vikings skull chant, which seemed to be the kiss of death, when it looked like the Cardinals had a certain victory in Minnesota. So right after that, Sam Darnold proceeded to lead the Vikings on an 8-play, 70-yard TD to take the 23-22 lead with just a minute and 13 seconds left on the clock. Of course, Pascal finished with 0 receptions, but he did spark the rally for the Vikings comeback. Look, make sure you wonder how it makes you wonder how smart are these guys. Remember, how you win and lose really does matter. You should be gracious in defeat, but even more gracious in victory. The greatest winner on the PGA Tour of all time, Jack Nicklaus, was also the most gracious loser. It's called class. The Vikings have been doing the skull chant since 2016 when they moved into US Bank Stadium, and it's one of the coolest traditions in the NFL. I'm going to roll through this a little quicker, Felix. We're getting close to the end. The LA Rams defeated the New Orleans Saints 21-14. Matthew Stafford and Kyren Williams helped the Rams grind out the win over the Saints. Williams had 104 yards rushing and a TD. Matthew Stafford threw for 2 TDs in the fourth quarter for a crucial win to stay in the hunt for the weak NFC West title. The Saints' offensive woes continue as they settle for field goals and fail to capitalize on opportunities in the red zone. That's always the kiss of death. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers staved off late surging Carolina Panthers team for a 26-23 win. Now they're back at 500 and at 6-6. They're just behind the Atlanta Falcons, who are also 6-6. But the Falcons have beaten the Bucs twice already this year, so they got the tiebreaker. But the Bucs still are alive for playoffs. There are currently 4 NFL teams that are 6-6, but the Bucs are the best of the 6-6 teams. After being declared dead in Carolina, don't look now, but Bryce Young leads all QBs in the clutch stat over the last 2 weeks, which measures the accuracy of QBs' throws downfield in the fourth quarter. Good for you, Bryce Young. Let's get to the major showdown for the day, which was the Eagles and the Ravens. And the Eagles prevailed in a tough-fought 24-19 game over the Ravens. The Eagles are firing on all cylinders on both sides of the ball, looking like a serious contender for a deep run in the playoffs. One of my personal measuring metrics for this game was how would Saquon Barkley do against the Baltimore defense. Barkley had 23 carries for 107 yards rushing, while his counterpart, Derrick Henry, had 19 carries for 82 yards. Now, Mr. Magruder once told me, Big Thump, 19 is not 20. And the Ravens did a good job of holding Barkley in check like the Commanders did a few weeks ago. But those last 6 to 10 carries made the difference. What happens if Derrick Henry gets 25 carries? It only takes those guys one more carry. 19 is not 20. The Eagles' offensive line wore the Ravens down, and Saquon Barkley provided the knockout blow. That's the winning formula, and the Ravens still haven't figured it out. The Ravens' defense came into this game number 1 versus the run, Barkley is the first back in 2024 to get 100 yards or more against the Ravens. Najee Harris had 63 yards rushing in week 11 against the Ravens. To prove my point, Barkley had 63 of his 107 yards rushing in the fourth quarter. And he broke the 25-yard TD run. The Eagles players late in the game was heard saying, "It's the fourth quarter, Saquon. Put your cape on. Put your cape on." Guess who's the best fourth quarterback in the NFL? Derrick Henry. That's right. Give him the ball. But I'm really impressed with the Eagles defense. They're stout and sound up front. And Vic Fangio has the defense believing and flying to the ball. They did a great job of containing Lamar Jackson and staying disciplined in their rushing lanes. Now, against Lamar Jackson, you can't rush past him because it creates running lanes. You have to collapse the pocket on him. And then you also have to play zone against him so that your defensive backs can keep their eyes on him. So Lamar has to run to move the chains. That's when he's most dangerous. Lamar had 8 carries for 79 yards. He was 23 for 36 for 236 yards and 2 TDs. Felix, what was your thought on this big game with the Ravens and the Eagles?
Honestly, I looked at the matchup between the Ravens and the Eagles, and I thought to myself, this would be a very difficult game to pick, especially because there's 2 talented teams. And I dare say that the Ravens are more talented than the Eagles, but quite frankly, I just knew that the Eagles are more reliable. They come out every single week playing the best football. The Ravens, on the other hand, Ravens games are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
No, I love it. Go on, Felix. Go. My mama told me they'd take me anywhere. You know, Geneva, a nurse, too. Hey, look, man, we just got to move on. Look, the Bills, let's get to this next one. The Bills swept my 49ers away just like the snow last night in a 35-10. First of all, we all know that Tom the Bomb is a 49er fan, okay? We all know that. That's common knowledge. Tom the Bomb is a 49er fan. And you also know that I told you last week that the Bills would pretty much clean our clocks, which they did. But I noticed last night, Felix, that on the telecast that the Bills ownership is building a new stadium on their own dime, meaning using no taxpayers' money. I salute them for that. Okay, getting to the point. I know last week it was cool seeing the Browns and the Steelers in the snow. It was very nostalgic and it was old school football. But it's that time. It's that time. It's time for that to end forever. Yeah, it's old school. It's old school because it's outdated. And with all the new technology we have today, no one on any level should be playing in the conditions that the Bills and the 49ers played in last night. This is not sour grapes, Felix, because if it was 80 degrees in California, the Bills still would have won. Okay, maybe not 35-10, but I still had the Bills coming away victorious. I have a couple of points I want to make in conditions like these. It's a crapshoot. Because of the conditions, I'm actually worried that the best team may not win because of the elements. Mark my words. When the Steelers roll into Buffalo and upset the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs in the snow, a lot of people are not going to be happy, i.e. Dupo 7, Assumption 0, in a rainstorm and blizzard, the game that should never have been played in those conditions. That's totally personal. It's not fair to the fans. It's not fair to the players. It's not fair to the coaches. It's not fair to anybody. Who could ever forget the Fog Bowl in the playoffs where the Bears beat the Eagles? When I know that the Eagles had a better team than that great Bears team that year. Now, how odd and weird is it to say that the Bears had a great team? I know, yeah, right. Funny, Tom. Christian McCaffrey was injured in the snow, and he's lost for the season. As rich as the NFL is and its owners, there's no need for games to be played in these conditions. If the NFL won't play Super Bowls in Buffalo, why should they play an AFC Championship game in the snow in Buffalo? Think about it. Because you want both teams to have a fair chance. And when Buffalo gets an indoor stadium like Minnesota, then you can now play a Super Bowl there in Buffalo. That game was over before it started. California boys against Buffalo, New York boys in the cold and the snow. That's checkmate. It's why the Dolphins can't win any games under 40 degrees. All I'm saying is in 2024, let's stop letting conditions decide the outcome of games, especially games of great importance like the playoffs. Playoffs. Not for my Niners, not for my Niners this year. As far as the game itself, MVP candidate Josh Allen set an NFL record by throwing a touchdown, running for a touchdown, and catching a touchdown all in the same game. That had never been done in the history of the NFL. What's your take on that, Felix? Wrap that up for me.
So I would say that to your point about the stadiums trying to get rid of inclement weather games, I was thinking for a second. I'm not sure if you remember. There's a conversation we had at some point. I said, should all MLB parks have symmetrical outfields? Now, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I understood your argument for saying no, they shouldn't. And I thought about it. I'm thinking, well, at the end of the day, both they and their opponent have to deal with the configuration. So if it's hard to hit over a wall for your team, it's hard for your opponent. If your team has thinner air like Colorado, so does your opponent have thinner air or a low wall, or maybe your outfield is, however. The only stadiums with symmetrical outfields that will be Kansas City, the Royals, and the Toronto Blue Jays. But aside from that, in the NFL, it's a little different because if you're used to a certain climate, you're going to have that advantage because you're used to that versus if you're an indoor team or a team from a warm climate, you don't. And again, the coaches are not helping by coddling them and putting them indoors winter practices. Like it doesn't work. I mean, I played baseball in high school. And practice for baseball starts in March. If you've lived in a DC area for long enough, you know that March can get brutally cold.
Yep.
And if you play baseball in the cold, it is painful to hold on to a metal bat while your hands are freezing. And it's painful to do that. So if we can do that, I think NFL players, grown adults who've been training and conditioning their whole lives, can handle a little bit of a frosty practice, and they're not holding a metal bat. So you know what I'm saying? I would just, to your point, that aside, but to your point, you take out the need for those cold weather practices as a whole, and to your point, the NFL can easily fund that on their own dime as well. So that's to your point. I just want to make your argument. That's kind of how it's different from the whole symmetrical outfields in baseball. And I think that may be a good idea, but again, that's going to turn off some football purists and maybe some players. That's the key barrier there.
Well, I appreciate that. I do remember that conversation we had. I just want to close it by saying, the 49ers, like I said, they lost Christian McCaffrey. They also lost Jordan Mason. So they lost 2 running backs in this game for the rest of the season. My Niners have just had too many injuries. The 49ers are done. You can go ahead and stick a fork in them. Hey, let's wrap the show up. Let's start off tonight with 8:15 on ESPN. The Cleveland Browns take on the Denver Broncos. Who do you like in Cleveland and Denver? Denver. I like Denver too. Let's get to week 14 and the picks. All righty, here we go. All righty, Thursday night, December 5th, we got the Green Bay Packers take on the Detroit Lions at 8:15 p.m. That's going to be a really, really good football game, man. I'm going to take the Lions, though. Who do you like?
Packers upset.
All righty, I love it. We got the Browns versus the Steelers. I think the Steelers will be ready for the Browns this time. What's your take?
Agreed.
All righty. Then we got the Saints versus the Giants. The G-Men. I'm taking the Saints.
Saints.
All right. We got the Jets versus the Dolphins. I'm taking the Dolphins.
Dolphins.
Okay. Then we got the Jaguars versus the Titans. That's going to be a good football game. I'm going to take the Jags in this one.
That Titans.
Okay. All right. Then we got the Atlanta Falcons versus the Minnesota Vikings. Tom the Bomb's going to take the Vikings. I said they're going to be 11-2 after this.
Vikings.
All right. We got the Carolina Panthers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Tom the Bomb taking the Eagles.
Eagles.
We got the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm taking the Buccaneers.
Buccaneers.
Boy, that Brock Bowers is an absolute beast, man. We got the Seattle Seahawks versus the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be a really, really good football game. I think I'm going to take the Cardinals in this one. Who you like?
Same, Cardinals.
Okay. And then we got the Bears versus the 49ers. And, the Bears should win this game, but I went 2 weeks in a row going against my 49ers. I'm going back to my 49ers. That might be why they didn't win, because I'm not picking them. I'm taking the 49ers in this one. Who you like?
Hope this doesn't upset you, but I think the Bears have an edge here.
All right. Okay. Then we got the Buffalo Bills versus the Rams. I'm going to shock you here. I'm going to take the Rams in this game over the Bills.
I understand where you're coming from, but I'm going with the Bills.
Okay. And then we got the Chargers versus Mother Wigs, Kansas City Chiefs. Tom the Bomb's taking the Chargers in this game.
Chargers.
All righty. And then next week, Monday Night Football game is the Bengals versus the Cowgirls. Hey, gang, that's our show for today. Let's cover our trivia and poll question. All right, the poll question was, what team has won the most state championships in the state of Illinois? That would be Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel has won 16 state championships. Joliet Catholic has won 15. And then the East St. Louis Flyers are number 3 with their 11th state championship that they just won on Saturday. Congratulations again to the Flyers. We got our poll question out there. You guys can chime in on that. Who do you like in the Heisman voting? Troy says it's going to be Ashton Jenny. Tom the Bomb says it's Travis Hunter. You guys chime in and let us know, and we'll give you the results next week on the show. Hey, don't forget to check us out at our website at www.tomthebombsports.com, and you can contact us by email at info@tomthebombsports.com. Hey, for dynamic and in-depth sports analysis and highlights for sports in the DMV and more, check out the Washington Sports Den Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on WBGR with my main man, Felix Bassey. His future's so bright, he got to wear shades. Okay, man, time flies when you're having fun. We're out of time here, but we sure do thank you for spending your time with us. We do not take that for granted. We do appreciate you. Like and subscribe. We need you. Listen, may the gates of heaven open and pour an abundance of blessings down on you, where there won't be room enough for you to contain it. Remember, if you want it, you got to confess it with your mouth and believe it in your heart that Jesus died on the cross and that he rose on the third day, not a Thursday, right, Lori?
On Thursday.
Just for you. Remember, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love could do that. God bless you. We'll see you on this same bat time, on this same bat channel. We love you guys. Be sure to go to our YouTube and hit that like and subscribe button. Like I said, we need you guys. Same bat station, same bat time. You guys have a good evening. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Felix.
Of course.
This is your time, and you gon' shine, and you gon' shine. Daughter of mine, this is your time, and you gon' shine, and you gon' shine.
Well, I'm coming out with a word in my mouth, filled with excitement to say what it's all about. For a long time, I've held this water in, let the floodgates open, let the miracles begin. I've prayed, and I've gone back 7 times, look again, cause the miracles are mine, stir the water. I'm about to step in like the pool of Bethesda, let the healing begin.
Daughter of mine, this is your time, and you gon' shine, and you gon' shine. Daughter of mine, this is your time, and you gon' shine, and you gon' shine.
It took a minute to get my composure right. For years it seems like I've been fighting for my life. Confusing times when my days resemble nights. But now this eagle is about to take flight and soar out of darkness to its revelation light. Though the waves are rough, I step out my comfort zone to walk on water, cause I know I'm not alone. God's got my back and reminds me I'm his own. His words are sweet in my mouth, they taste like a honeycomb. And faith has opened up my eyes. I've been through the fire, tested and tried. As I study God's word, I finally realize that my purpose I have to visualize, to bring the unseen from the realm of under night until I walk into the fullness of a purpose-filled life. Cause I'm light. Yes, I am light, and I shine bright. I am an investment of the Lord Jesus Christ. Not only am I light, I am salt. When I enter am the head and not the tail. I'm an overcomer made free to prevail. A new design, a special kind. Ambassador followed by wonders and signs. I am light and I give sight, leading lost souls to a glorious light. I am light